This video is created for entertainment purposes only. I sincerely respect all BTS members. This content is purely fictional and based on imagination. If this is not your interest, please feel free to skip the video. Please do not repost or re-edit my story. All background images and songs used in this video belong to their respective owners. All credits go to them. Hello, KJ. This story is a work of pure imagination and has no connection to any real people or events. If you notice any similarities, they are entirely coincidental and unintentional. The world, characters, and events in this story follow their own unique logic and rules. This is a BL boys' love story. If this genre isn't your preference, you are welcome to skip this video. At its heart, this is a love story between a human and a mysterious animal-like being. Something closer to an alien than anything found on Earth. Lastly, English is not my first language. I truly appreciate your patience and understanding. If you come across any grammatical errors or slightly awkward phrasing,
this story is a complete work of fiction. All characters, events, and situations are created solely for storytelling and to explore the emotional depth and complexity of human nature. They do not reflect my personal beliefs, opinions, or values. Violence, stalking, abuse, harassment, or harming any person or living being are unacceptable and punishable under the law. Nothing in this story is intended to encourage, justify, or glorify such behavior. Please enjoy this story as fiction only. Let it remain on the page, not in real life. Choose kindness over cruelty, empathy over hatred, and respect over harm. Take care of yourself, respect others, and help create a safer and more compassionate world. Thank you for reading responsibly.
Namjoon, Suga, and Jimin stood frozen to the spot. None of them spoke. None of them even dared to blink. Complete disbelief was etched across their faces as they watched the impossible unfold before their eyes. Taehyung, the most uncontrollable beast among them, the one who had never allowed a single soul to come near whenever he lost control, was now completely still, anchored entirely in Jungkook's embrace. There was no force, no display of power, just one fragile human holding a raging beast. Their minds rejected the reality of what they were witnessing. "How?" Jimin whispered, his voice barely a breath. Namjoon could only stare in stunned silence, while Suga's sharp eyes never left the two figures standing beneath the towering trees. Then, the atmosphere shifted violently. A deep vibration echoed from the belly of the forest. The warm morning light vanished in an instant, swallowed by thick, suffocating clouds. The once peaceful breeze transformed into a chilling gust. Whoosh! A powerful gale swept across the forest floor, ripping up dust, dry leaves, and broken twigs. Within moments, the wind turned wild, fiercer, more relentless, until the entire forest groaned under its crushing force. Crack! Heavy branches snapped from the trees, spinning violently through the air, and the wind howled so loudly it drowned out every other sound. Suga instinctively stepped in front of Jimin, shielding him. "Cover your eyes!" Namjoon threw his arm up to protect his face as flying debris struck against his skin. "I can't see anything!" Jimin shouted over the roaring tempest. The storm grew more ravenous with every passing second. Thousands of dry leaves spiraled together, circling Jungkook and Taehyung at a terrifying speed. Round and round the debris spun, until it formed a towering, impenetrable wall, a prison of swirling earth and wind that completely cut them off from the world. No one could see what was happening inside. Only the deafening scream of the storm echoed through the trees. Inside the barrier of leaves, Jungkook clung to Taehyung, refusing to let go. "It's okay." His voice trembled, yet it remained desperately gentle. "I'm here. I've got you." But suddenly, Taehyung's entire body stiffened. An agonizing growl tore from his throat. "Rrrr!" His muscles seized violently beneath his golden fur. An unbearable pain ripped through him, as though something invisible was tearing his soul apart from the inside out. His breathing shattered into ragged gasps. The fleeting peace he had found moments ago vanished, replaced by pure agony and blinding fury. Every nerve in his body was on fire. Jungkook's heart dropped into a hollow abyss. He tightened his grip, burying his face into the fur. Please! But the lion began to struggle violently, his massive frame shaking uncontrollably. No! No! Please don't! Jungkook whispered desperately, tears blurring his vision. Taehyung let out a tortured, earth-shattering roar. Unable to bear the burning agony any longer, his survival instinct took over. With a desperate heave, he threw his body forward, breaking the embrace and shattering their connection. Outside the swirling wall, Namjoon, Suga, and Jimin stared at the towering barrier in sheer terror. The same question gripped all of their hearts. What is happening to them? Before anyone could move, celestial light erupted from the heart of the storm. It grew brighter and more piercing until the darkest corners of the forest were illuminated by its radiant, terrifying glow. Ah! A violent, pain-filled scream echoed from within, shaking the very earth beneath their feet. In that exact instant, the swirling wall exploded outward. Leaves, branches, and shockwaves of dust were blasted across the clearing in every direction as a tidal wave of pure energy surged through the forest. The three onlookers instinctively threw their arms up, shielding themselves from the blinding glare. When the chaos finally settled and the wind died down to a breathless whisper, they slowly lowered their arms. Their eyes widened, breath catching in their throats. What stood before them in the clearing left them frozen in absolute paralyzing shock. The brass door handle clicked, shattering the heavy silence of the hidden sanctuary. Inside, the room was a pitch-black tomb until a hand flicked the switch. A sudden amber light flooded the space, illuminating a chilling monument to obsession. Every inch of the towering walls was smothered in stolen photographs of Lisa, hundreds of frames capturing 1,000 voyeuristic moments. Below this mosaic lay a chaotic graveyard of her past, shattered bottles, tangled jewelry, and torn silk dresses. It was the secret museum of an apex predator. Moving through the clutter, the figure approached the vanity table. A hand lifted a delicate bottle, Lisa's exact signature perfume, stolen from her bedroom. The atomizer hissed, releasing a heavy mist into the stagnant air. As her fragrance bloomed, the stalker stood frozen, inhaling the scent deeply, drinking in her very soul. A slow, terrifyingly sweet smile spread across their lips. Lisa, happy anniversary, the voice murmured, deep, smooth, and dripping with psychopathic tenderness. It's our 10th anniversary, my love. Turning slowly, the stalker settled a fixed gaze on a life-sized wax statue of Lisa standing silently against the wall. The figure stepped closer, closing the distance until the air between them vanished, arms wrapped tightly around the cold, unyielding form. With eyes squeezed shut, they pressed a passionate, desperate kiss against the statue's lips, entirely lost in a dark delusion, completely convinced that this cold wax was the real Lisa. The grip tightened with a crushing, possessive intensity. "Baby, I am coming to you," a low, seductive whisper promised against the statue's skin. Leaning into the cold wax, the figure buried their face into the neck of the statue, breathing in her stolen scent, desperate to merge with the creation in a silent, eternal embrace. Hours crawled by, each passing minute stretched into an endless century. Inside the cave, a heavy silence ruled over everything, broken only by the soft, rhythmic crackling of the fire. The scent of healing herbs lingered in the cold air, where two motionless figures lay upon beds woven from medicinal leaves. Taehyung, Jungkook. Both remained unconscious, their broken and battered bodies gently cared for by the pack's healers. Near the warmth of the hearth, the little wolf pups slept peacefully. They were curled tightly against Jungkook's side, instinctively seeking comfort, as if they knew his gentle soul was their new safe place. Not far away, Namjoon, Suga, Jin, and Jimin sat together on the icy floor of the cave. No one spoke. Their raw, exhausted eyes never drifted from the two sleeping figures. They had waited, not for mere hours, not for days, but for 9 long, agonizing years. 9 years of protecting a fading ember of hope. 9 years of desperate prayers whispered beneath indifferent moonlit skies. 9 years of endless, grueling searching. Tonight, every single prayer was finally about to be answered. His massive, fearsome lion form dissolved. For the first time in his life, Taehyung turned into his human form. He was absolutely breathtaking, not merely handsome, but profoundly ethereal, as though the heavens themselves had sculpted him from moonlight. Long, ink-black hair framed a face of such flawless symmetry it almost seemed an illusion. His pale skin glowed softly under the dancing firelight, making him look less like a man and more like a slumbering divine being. No one dared to move. On the outside, they appeared perfectly frozen, but inside, every heart was a violent volcano on the verge of eruption. Then, his dark eyelashes trembled. A slender finger twitched against the leaves. His shallow breathing suddenly deepened. Slowly, agonizingly slowly. Taehyung opened his eyes. It was the quiet beginning of a completely new life. His gaze wandered blankly across the familiar stone walls of the cave before finally settling on the four men sitting before him. The exact moment their eyes locked, their collective vision blurred with hot, unshed tears. Trembling smiles bloomed across bruised hearts. Breaths caught painfully in throats. No one could truly believe that this moment was real. Ignoring the agonizing pain shooting through every waking muscle, Taehyung slowly pushed himself upright. Still, the others remained frozen, immobilized by disbelief. His glowing amber eyes, glistening with tears, stayed fixed entirely on them. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, all the restraint shattered completely. Namjoon rushed forward first, his strength giving out. Suga followed closely behind, flanked by Jimin and Jin. They threw themselves around Taehyung, pulling him into the tightest, most desperate embrace they had ever shared. Taehyung wrapped his arms around them just as tightly, burying his face into their shoulders. No words were needed. Only tears, only warmth, only family. The cave echoed with the sound of muffled, ragged sobs as countless years of torment melted away into the earth. It was a reunion that finally began to heal 5 deeply broken hearts. After what felt like a beautiful eternity, they reluctantly pulled away. A profound hush returned, but its nature had changed. Taehyung's gaze slowly drifted down, settling on the fragile figure lying beside him. Jungkook. He was still deeply unconscious. His pale face looked heartbreakingly peaceful, despite the dried, salty trails of tears staining his cheeks. He looked like someone who had cried until his soul had absolutely nothing left to give. Instinctively, everyone followed Taehyung's gaze. Without looking away from Jungkook, Taehyung spoke. His voice was incredibly low and calm, yet it carried a resonant, ancient weight that none of them could fully comprehend. How is this possible? No one answered immediately. The burden of the explanation was too heavy to carry, because none of them truly understood it themselves. Jin sighed softly, his voice cracking with emotion. We don't know the answer to that, Taehyung. His eyes softened to a gentle glow as he looked down at the sleeping boy. But one thing is certain, he is the only human we have ever respected. Namjoon nodded slowly, his expression solemn. He saved all of us, Taehyung. He brought you back. Taehyung remained completely silent. His amber eyes never left Jungkook's face. Deep inside his chest, a single name echoed like a sacred protective prayer. My Leorin. My destined mate. Then, the air shifted. The lingering warmth in his expression vanished in an instant. His beautiful, divine face darkened with a sudden, terrifying fury. His jaw clenched violently. The temperature in the cave plummeted. A suffocating aura bled outward from his body, like an unholy darkness swallowing the firelight. Recognizing the shift, the others instantly mirrored his expression. The vulnerability of the reunion vanished. Their eyes became icy, calculating, and entirely merciless. Suga's deep, gravelly voice only deepened the tension hanging between them. It was them. His fists clenched until his knuckles turned pure white. Jimin spoke quietly, though his soft tone carried an unmistakable, lethal rage. Fortunately, they never discovered who Jungkook truly is. They think he is just a casualty. Taehyung slowly nodded, processing the information. Relief flickered in his eyes for a mere heartbeat before it was utterly consumed by something far more dangerous. He turned his head to face his brothers. They were no longer just grieving men. They were predators, entities possessing ancient powers long forgotten by the world. Then, the corners of Taehyung's lips slowly curled upward. It wasn't a comforting smile. It was the twisted smirk of someone who had already decided his enemy's horrific fate. A devil's smile, unbelievably cold, strikingly beautiful, and completely merciless. They wanted a war. His amber eyes ignited. Now, they will witness the birth of their worst nightmare. The ancient hall lay buried beneath an ocean of darkness. Only a handful of trembling candle flames fought against the endless night, their weak light dancing across the black stone walls. Every flicker twisted the shadows into horrifying shapes, as though unseen creatures lurked just beyond the edge of sight. At the heart of the hall rested an enormous crimson basin, vast enough to resemble a ceremonial sacrificial vat. Its surface was forged from black metal streaked with veins of blood red, looking like a relic pulled straight from the depths of hell. The basin brimmed with a scarlet liquid, unnaturally still, reflecting the candlelight like a pool of fresh blood. Floating upon the thick surface were dozens of black roses, not a single petal moved. A thick, intoxicating fragrance drifted from the basin, blending with white smoke that coiled through the hall like living serpents. The scent was beautiful, yet suffocating enough to trigger a crushing headache in anyone who dared to breathe it in. Before the basin stood a lone figure. Hidden beneath a long, black hooded cloak, the stranger remained perfectly still. The deep hood swallowed their face in shadow, revealing no hint of life. The silence surrounding them felt heavier than death itself. Suddenly, a thunderous explosion shattered the quiet, rocking the ancient hall to its foundations. The massive ancient doors groaned open. A second cloaked figure hurried inside before the heavy wood slammed shut behind him with a thunderous echo. His footsteps faltered as he approached the mysterious entity. The sheer pressure in the hall made it difficult to breathe. Stopping several feet away, he immediately dropped to his knees, pressing his palms together in deep reverence. My lord? His voice cracked uncontrollably, fear consuming every syllable. His body trembled violently, sweat dripping beneath his hood. We couldn't catch Faradual. Silence. Not a single reply came. The hooded figure didn't even move. Yet, the kneeling man felt as if an invisible hand were squeezing the life from his throat. I beg your forgiveness, my lord. He lowered his head until it nearly touched the cold stone floor. But, his breathing quickened. We found something. For the first time, the silent entity reacted with a slow tilt of the head. Beneath the deep hood, an unseen gaze settled heavily upon the trembling messenger. The man swallowed hard. My lord, there is a human. A heavy pause hung in the air. But that human possesses their power. The hall fell into absolute silence. Then, the corners of the hidden figure's lips slowly curled upward. A smile. No, a terrifying smirk, dark enough to freeze the soul. It was the expression of someone who had just found exactly what they had been searching for. Without uttering a single word, the figure made a casual hand gesture. That simple movement sealed the messenger's fate. A blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. The kneeling man convulsed violently before collapsing onto the cold stone floor, his body instantly falling motionless. Dead. It was as though his life had been erased in a single heartbeat. Several shadowy figures emerged soundlessly from the darkness surrounding the hall. They bowed deeply before the hooded entity. The mysterious being leaned slightly forward. Their voice was barely louder than a whisper, yet it echoed through the vast space like an ancient demon. Keep an eye on them. Yes, my lord. Without hesitation, the shadows lifted the lifeless corpse and vanished back into the darkness, leaving no trace behind. Once again, only the candles remained. The crimson basin rippled gently, One of the black roses slowly sank beneath the blood-red liquid, as though it had just accepted another soul. And deep within the dark hood, the mysterious lord continued to smirk. After the end of the long discussion, everyone left the cave to respect their privacy. Only Tae-hyung stayed. He sat beside Jungkook, who was still unconscious on the bed of leaves. Tae-hyung's eyes locked onto Jungkook's face. After a long moment, his trembling fingers slowly reached for Jungkook's uninjured hand. It wasn't warm anymore. A shattered breath escaped his lips. My Leorin. Tears slipped from his eyes, falling onto the cold floor. Leaning closer, Tae-hyung gently brushed Jungkook's hair away from his forehead and pressed the softest kiss there. His lips lingered, fearing that the moment he pulled away, Jungkook would disappear. Reluctantly, he lifted his head. His exhausted eyes traced every feature of Jungkook's peaceful face, memorizing him all over again. Without another word, Tae-hyung carefully lay down beside him. Almost hesitantly, he wrapped an arm around Jungkook's tiny waist and rested his head against his chest. Thump, thump, thump. The steady rhythm echoed beneath his ear like the sweetest melody. Safe, warm, alive. Tae-hyung inhaled deeply. Jungkook's familiar scent wrapped around him like home, and the unbearable weight on his soul began to fade. Curled against his chest like a child seeking comfort, Tae-hyung closed his eyes. Sleep claimed him instantly, the deepest, most peaceful rest he had known in centuries. Outside, rain poured over the mountains with a soft, melancholic rhythm, while a chilly breeze carried the scent of wet soil and blooming night flowers into the cave. Then, darkness. A blurred image flashed across Jungkook's unconscious mind. Inside a massive cave, a lion lay on the freezing stone floor. Its majestic golden fur was soaked by relentless rain, and its powerful body trembled violently. A deep, raw wound stretched across its side, still bleeding. Every breath was painful. Every heartbeat echoed with unbearable loneliness, the waiting, the endless suffering. Suddenly, Jungkook's chest tightened. His heartbeat accelerated violently. His brows furrowed as the lion's agony became his own. He murmured something softly in his sleep, his voice breaking as his body trembled. Without opening his eyes, his arms moved instinctively. He wrapped them around the warm body lying against him, and pulled Tae-hyung closer with quiet desperation, shielding him from every pain in the world. Tears escaped the corners of his closed eyes, sliding silently across his temples. Then, his eyes flew open with a sharp breath. He stared at the cave ceiling, disoriented by the familiar stone walls and the flickering orange light of the fire. It had only been a nightmare, or had it? His breathing slowly steadied, yet his arms refused to loosen. Only then did he notice the comforting weight resting against his chest. Jungkook lowered his gaze. There, sleeping peacefully, was Tae-hyung. His soft pout and his face finally free from pain made him look boyish in his sleep. Jungkook didn't flinch or panic. He didn't even question why Tae-hyung was holding him so tightly. Instead, he simply stared.